Hi, I'm Joy Matthews with the Office of Consumer Protection here in Montgomery County, Maryland. I'll be your host for this episode of Consumer Compass. We've got some great stories for you, beginning with an open house to celebrate Consumer Protection Week, held the second week of March each year.
We're very fortunate to have a vibrant Consumer Protection Office.
This year, the Montgomery County Council issued a proclamation to bring attention to it.
The County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby proclaims March the 3rd through the 9th, 2013 as National Consumer Protection Week.
Then, the director of our office, Eric Friedman, speaks with Professor Shelley Taylor, a neuroscientist at UCLA. Her team recently conducted brain research to find out why older people are more susceptible to scams. Why can't seniors tell the bad guys from the good guys?
In all our presentations, we typically tell consumers to trust your instincts. But here, you would be suggesting that for seniors, something is happening in their brain that is affecting their ability to, in fact, trust their gut feelings.
Yes, not only that, their gut feelings may be telling them things that may be telling them that someone is trustworthy who isn't.
And to end the show, we'll check in with U.S. Postal Inspector Frank Schisler and a victim of a lottery scam. He lost his life savings and is here to help you avoid this trap.
If you get a call and they're asking you for money for a lottery or sweepstakes or anything like that, hang that phone up as fast as you can.
So let's start on the third floor of 100 Maryland Avenue and see how Consumer Protection Week was honored this year.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're celebrating National Consumer Protection, and we are joined by someone so many people across the county already know, and his name is Eric Friedman, and he's standing here to my left, and he's been something of a national celebrity lately. He has been on national television doing what we all know he does so well here, and that is responding to the needs of consumers across the county.
I work for 2020 at ABC News. Montgomery County has a really active consumer affairs program. ABC News has worked with them in the past numerous times, and we are here doing a story about towing. What we want to hear from Eric Friedman is how they are handling this from the consumer protection perspective.
Eric Friedman is director of the Montgomery County, Maryland Office of Consumer Protection.
We're talking about towers that are hiding and wait for someone to make one little slip up, to walk across the street to mail the letter, walk across the street to get a cup of coffee, and then they swoop in.
But that's not illegal, right?
Well, it's not, but it's despicable.
I'm also joined by Special Investigator Jim Parks and Silver Spring resident Kitty Brims as we recognize National Consumer Protection Week. And whereas the Office of Consumer Protection has developed and implemented innovative programs and has effectively enforced the many laws for which it has been assigned responsibility to protect the residents of Montgomery County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby proclaims March the 3rd through the 9th, 2013 as National Consumer Protection Week and recognizes the outstanding work that the Montgomery County Office of Consumer Protection performs on a daily basis, presented on this 5th day of March in the year 2013, signed by Council President Nancy Navarro.
Our office was created over 40 years ago. We have a dedicated dedicated staff, and we have a talented team of volunteers. Much of our staff is sitting with us today. We're very fortunate that we have the support of the County Council and the support of the County Executive. Our office is a law enforcement agency. We have the authority to issue civil citations, administrative subpoenas, enter into settlement agreements. We have three major functions. We handle and resolve consumer complaints. We license certain businesses like auto repair and new home builders, and we do consumer outreach and education. But we're also very fortunate today to have an asset in our office that, to the best of our knowledge, no other local government consumer protection office can claim. And that is, we have an automotive expert on our staff, Investigator Jim Parks, who's a master automotive technician. That means he can go toe-to-toe with any repair shop or dealership regarding any issue. And in fact, sometimes they turn to him for assistance. And he has actually been able to resolve complaints that the experts in the auto repair shops and the dealerships have not been able to resolve.
My name's Kitty Brims, and my husband Jim Moynihan and I are very appreciative of the Consumer Protection Office. If it weren't for Jim Parks, we would have been looking for another car. We had an oil leakage from our car. It caused the oil to leak out. The engine froze.
A little tiny mistake was made that took about 800 miles for it to result in a failure of the engine. I was able to convince the merchant and his crew of exactly what did happen, what went wrong. They finally relented and took care of the engine issue at no charge to Ms. Moynihan and Ms. Brims.
And because of that, we were able to have the car fixed and have it back. So we're very thankful.
It was one of those opportunities where my expertise did come into play, and I was very happy that we could have a fortunate result for the consumer.
Well, we're here to celebrate National Consumer Protection Week. Every year in March, there's a national campaign to promote consumer protection issues, and many agencies get involved, do outreach activities. Today, we're having an open house in our Consumer Protection Office so people can come into our office, talk one-on-one with our consumer experts, our investigators. We can pull credit reports, help you read them, answer any questions consumers may have, give them brochures, and really just get to know what great services there are in Montgomery County.
Just looking at what resources Montgomery County has for us, you know, I'm actually a president of a homeowners association, but I'm also involved in a homeowners association, so I just want to know what our rights are and how Montgomery County helps us out in those areas. So I figured I'd come by and see.
We're very fortunate to have a vibrant consumer protection office, and yet today some people don't even know that Montgomery County has one of the nation's greatest consumer protection offices.
Since it's coming from a government agency, I would imagine they know that this is official business.
And so we want to promote our office, let people know we're here to help them and give them the information they may need to avoid problems or resolve problems if they have them. We're the Office of Consumer Protection, but there are times when we actually help merchants as well. If merchants want to know how to comply with the law, we can explain that to them. Some of our auto repair merchants will even contact our in-house auto expert to ask for advice or to even refer consumers here so we can independently advise or explain something to a consumer. So there clearly are times when we're helping the business community. And we also level the playing field so that if a merchant is engaged in deceptive practices, it's unfair to consumers, but it's also unfair to other merchants who are operating honestly.
Consumer Protection, Doug Numbers, can I help you?
We get about 20,000 telephone calls from consumers who want to speak to our investigators to get information. And we get about 2,000 written complaints a year that we investigate. We also have several investigators that speak Spanish. We have some really great people working here. We have a dedicated staff.
We'll be right on it. Thank you.
And we're able to help a lot of consumers and get back millions of dollars for consumers in terms of refunds or services corrected.
Our office is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you have a consumer complaint, it's best to call ahead or go online. But you can also come by and an investigator will take your information. We help all kinds of people here at Consumer Protection, but our seniors are the most vulnerable. Professor Shelley Taylor, a neuroscientist at UCLA, recently conducted brain research to find out why older people fall for scams more often than younger people. OCP Director Eric Friedman spoke with Dr. Taylor to explain.
Hi, Professor Taylor. It's Eric Friedman with Montgomery County Consumer Protection Office.
Hello, Eric.
Thank you for agreeing to participate.
You're welcome.
This is just fascinating for us. Our office has been handling consumer complaints. We've been around for over 40 years, and we get many complaints from consumers that are scammed, many of which are seniors. And we've always struggled, which is why we read with great interest your study, to try and figure out why is it that seniors are so vulnerable. And I think your study is one piece of trying to answer that puzzle. The Washington Post had an article and talked about your study. Would you be able to explain a little bit about what your study determined and how it came to be?
Yes. We've been interested in what factors make older adults so vulnerable, and one of the hypotheses that the Federal Trade Commission and the FBI have operated under is that older adults are more trusting. And we wanted to see if, in fact, older adults process cues related to trust somewhat differently than is true for younger adults. And we've done some questionnaire studies where we have people rate pictures of others' faces that vary in the cues that they provide regarding trust. For faces that are high and medium in trust cues, both older and younger adults see those faces as pretty trustworthy. But when you get to the faces that actually have some cues that predict distrust, things like insincere smiles, averted gaze, and the like, that older adults don't recognize those to be untrustworthy faces to the same degree as is true for younger adults. So we wanted to see if there's differences in how the brain is processing cues related to trust that vary between older and younger adults. We know that as people age, their experiences become more emotionally positive, and they seem to regulate their activities and experiences in ways that minimize negativity in their environment, negative emotions, negative experiences, and so on. We wanted to see if willingness to trust untrustworthy people was a potential liability of this otherwise benign change in how you view the world. In the brain imaging study that we did, we brought younger and older adults into our laboratory, and we put them in the scanner, and we showed them pictures of faces that we knew to be varying in trust-related cues.
I understand from Kathy, our producer, that the actual photographs or pictures that you used in your study would not be available to disseminate to the public, but we had an illustrator that looked at mugshots in Montgomery County and just made some illustrations for purposes of just explaining to people. Do you think that might be appropriate for us to show, and if we identify them as not being the ones from the actual study?
Yes, I think that would be fine. What you see is that among the younger adults, there's a region of the brain called the anterior insula, and that gets activated, that lights up in response to cues related to untrustworthiness. When you look at the brains of older adults, however, looking at exactly the same pictures, you see almost no activity at all. And essentially, what we think is happening is the older adults aren't getting signals from their brains that the younger adults are getting that say, uh-oh, not somebody you want to trust, not a good situation. So we think there may be some degree of functional, possibly even structural compromise in the limbic regions of the brain, which normally warn you when things are about to happen that put you at risk. And we think that maybe older adults just aren't getting these signals. And that's, as you said earlier to me, that's only one part of this picture, but it may well be an important part. People generally, I think, aren't aware of these kinds of changes. You don't notice that your experience is becoming more positive and that you're becoming more trusting at the neural level. The changes are subtle, they're gradual, and for the most part, I think they escape conscious attention.
Very interesting. Now, somehow this is all connected to the National Institute of Health, NIH, right here in Montgomery County.
It is. The studies that we have done are funded by the National Institute on Aging, and they are interested in older adults' vulnerability to fraud because of the risks to health and risks regarding health care costs that can result from these kinds of frauds that are perpetrated on older adults. Declining financial assets are related to health risks of all kinds, and older adults are especially vulnerable to chronic diseases. And when assets are depleted, older adults are especially likely to draw on the healthcare system for costs.
So you work with mind-body connections, clearly,
yes,
in mind. Fascinating. It kind of feels like NPR Science Friday here on Monday. In all our presentations, we typically tell consumers to trust your instincts. But here, you would be suggesting that for seniors, something is happening in their brain that is affecting their ability to, in fact, trust their gut feelings.
Yes, not only that, their gut feelings may be telling them things that may be telling them that someone is trustworthy who isn't. So they may be getting exactly the wrong signals from the brain. They may be regarding someone as a nice young man who, in fact, can be recognized by a younger adult as a scam artist. And so, what we think this means is that the important line of attack is just to block as much contact with potential scam artists as possible. I mean, things like just hang up, which I'm sure is also a policy that you advocate, but to try to minimize the contact on the front end as opposed to trying to interpret what it may mean, because it's in the interpretation that older adults may not be getting the right information.
So you would be suggesting if we were to do consumer education, it should be focused more on behavior, perhaps?
Yes, I would say so. I think there are some simple behaviors that people can undertake that will partially protect them. Throwing away mailers and flyers that come advertising financial opportunities before you even look at them. Hanging up as soon as you answer the phone and you hear that delay that tells you it's a telemarketer, hanging up the phone. Those are some kinds of policies. Now, that's not to say that people shouldn't be advised to follow if they're feeling uncomfortable with someone, they should definitely avoid contact with that person in the future. But it's the positive feelings that aren't always completely trustworthy.
So they may be getting false positive feelings. That seems to reinforce a study I remember a long time ago that the AARP did that said consumers who were being victimized by telemarketers didn't frequently hang up the phone quickly enough because they had never hung up on anyone in their lifetime.
Exactly. It's seen as a violation of basic rules of common courtesy. People are taught not to hang up on other people, and it's hard to get people to change those deeply ingrained habits.
Right. Now, we've had, Ponzi schemes for decades, but your research might be giving us some clues to figuring out a better way of educating our seniors to protect themselves.
Yes. Now, all seniors are vulnerable, and I think that what we've been talking about are some rules of thumb that everybody can employ, like hanging up and throwing away mailers. But an important thing to know is that people who are most vulnerable to the biggest financial scams, like the Ponzi schemes, tend to be experienced, older, male investors who have invested in risky assets in the past and who have apparently been rewarded for it. So we are not talking entirely about a naive population.
Well, this is the kind of research that really can help us as a consumer agency who thought that science would help us protect consumers, but you're actually suggesting there may be some benefits there.
I do believe that there are these benefits, that the more we know about how the brain is responding to situations that may involve swindles or scams, the better prepared we can potentially be for helping people ward off these threats.
Professor, thank you so much for taking time away from your busy schedule to speak with us.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's nice to talk with you, Eric.
Same here.
Coincidentally, our office was recently contacted by the U.S. Postal Inspection Service regarding lottery scams directed at seniors. OCP Administrator Marsha Carter caught up with Postal Inspector Frank Schisler and a victim to learn more.
Frank, can you tell us about the scams?
Well, lately we've been seeing a spike and an increase in the foreign lottery scams that are targeted towards seniors. We're seeing a lot of seniors losing thousands of dollars, sometimes tens and even hundreds of thousands of dollars to foreign lottery scams.
And what can seniors do to protect themselves?
Well, if you have to pay money to enter a sweepstakes, to enter a lottery, to claim your winnings, then it's a fraud. Any sweepstakes that charges money is not legitimate. Legitimate sweepstakes are always free to play. It's actually, as far as foreign lotteries, it's actually illegal for lottery material to be sent through the mail unless it's a legitimate state lottery, like the Maryland State Lottery is sent. You can play that through the mail because it's a legal lottery, and there's an exemption for states to be able to send their material through the mail. But any other lotteries, it's actually illegal to send them through the mail. So if you're participating in that, you're actually breaking the law, and many people don't realize that. But the other fact is that if you're playing a foreign lottery, the chances are there really is no lottery, there's no winnings, it's all a fraud, and it's fraudsters that are calling on the phone, sending materials through the mail, collecting money from people illegally, and there's never going to be anything to win.
And what can our seniors do if they are contacted?
Well, the best thing they can do, if they receive something in the mail, they can send it to postal inspectors. They can either give it to their local post office, tell them that this is a possible fraud scam. They can send it in to postal inspectors at our office. If they receive phone calls telling them that they've won a lottery or sweepstakes, they need to check out that company that is telling them that. And if they find out that it's a sweepstakes, they should, fraudulent sweepstakes or scam, they should contact postal inspectors. And they should, if they continue to get phone calls, they should just hang up the phone and not continue to talk to the people. Because these fraudsters are ruthless, they're relentless, they will continue to call as long as you continue to talk to them, and they will try to get money out of you.
How would our seniors identify the scammers? Do you have a name of a few of the scams?
Well, they use many different names. They use many different locations. They try to disguise the fact that they're out of the country many times, and they will use post office boxes in Florida. Say the Jamaican scams that are run out of Jamaica will use Florida addresses. Some from Canada may use P.O. boxes in New York or Vermont that are close to the border. We try to shut those down. Postal inspectors try to shut those down as we find out about them. And many times they disguise their mailings to look legitimate. They'll have some like a certified number on the front of the envelope that makes it look like it's official, some sort of official mailing, and those are kind of red flags to be on the lookout for as well.
So the call sometimes will not even be identified as a long distance or out of the area call. They can even block that?
That's right. Particularly the Jamaican fraudsters are using magic jacks and other new technology to disguise their phone numbers to make it look like they're actually calling from within the U.S.
And what exactly is did you call magic jack? What is a magic jack?
Magic jack it's a device that allows you to actually change the phone number that appears on someone's caller ID, so that you can create any phone number to show up on someone's caller ID, and that way that they are able to disguise their phone number as not appearing to be coming from Jamaica.
Frank, can you tell our viewers about any specific case?
Sure. Recently, we had a case where we started investigating a victim in Baltimore who was actually forwarding money on behalf of the scammer. He has a very powerful story about what he did, what happened to him, and unfortunately about how much it cost him. It really ended up costing him nearly everything, including his home.
Norman, can you tell us your story? How were you contacted?
Originally, was a guy called us said he was the Border Patrol in Washington State. And that we had won, my wife had won a $2.5 million sweepstakes, but they needed $2,000 to pay for the bringing it across the border, this, that, and the other thing. And my wife said, well, send it to him. So we sent it. And that was the beginning. And from there on, they had me sending money to Canada, to this, to that, to the other one in Canada, and I don't know how much money I sent up there, but then they switched it to Jamaica, and I was sending money to Jamaica. And altogether, I guess I spent, I figure I spent somewhere, or sent somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 to them. And I lost. In the meantime, my wife had dementia, and she was in a nursing home. Of course, they used that against me. If I'd send them the money, then they could send me the sweepstakes, and I could pay to bring her home and get people to come take care of her like that. And then when they found out that I had reverse mortgaged the house, well, if I'd send them that money, I'd get this sweepstakes, and it would I could bring my wife home and take care of her. They play on your sympathies and like that, and they're slimy as you can get, and they'll use anything that you say, they'll use it against you to play on your sympathies to get you to send them the money. And the best thing I can tell people is, if you get a phone call and said that you won something and they want you to send them money, hang that phone up. For crying out loud, don't say another word, just hang the phone up, because anything you tell them, they're going to use it against you, and they will call you and call you and call you, and when you think you're done calling, they'll still be calling. If I can keep somebody else from getting into this kind of a mess, then it's worth all my time and their effort for me to get it out there to them. The only thing is, I hope that they realize that I'm not some actor or something putting on a show for them. I am doing this because I was scammed. I lost everything.
Again, if you think you may be a victim of a lottery scam, please call the U.S. Postal Inspection Service or go online to postalinspectors.uspis.gov. The Federal Trade Commission can also help you. So that's it for today's show. If you want more information about the programs and services of the Montgomery County Office of Consumer Protection, please visit us online at montgomerycountymd.gov/consumer. You can also get our latest consumer updates on Twitter at ConsumerWise.
Are you having problems with Comcast, Verizon, or RCN? You've tried to reach the cable company, but the problem still remains? Call us at 311. We're the Montgomery County Office of Cable and Broadband Services. We're here for you. We can help you with billing issues, bad equipment, damage from construction in your yard, technical problems, cable availability, and service outages. Last year alone, we helped more than 1,200 residents. Call 311 or visit montgomerycountymd.gov/cable.